Red Mars and the trilogy it comes from, Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars trilogy, Red Mars, Green Mars, and Blue Mars, is a work of enormous literary ambition, a vast, majestic, I would say epic novel on a 19th century old-fashioned scale. It's very modern in some ways. It's ideologically very modern, and it takes modernism and postmodernism into account with the multiple viewpoints and so forth. But it has the structure in many ways of War and Peace, except together the three novels are longer than War and Peace. We even have moody Russians in it. Um, it is, of course, there are Russians in it because it's like War and Peace, but also because the Russians also have an advanced space program. Of course, they're there. It's also an extremely American novel, a novel about inhabiting a new land, changing it, and being changed by it is a very traditional American theme. One of Robinson's forerunners, Bradbury, his Martian Chronicles, follow much of this theme, kind of the process of turning Mars into something like Bradbury's own native small town Illinois, but being changed and becoming Martian in the process. This is what used to be called a novel of ideas, of big ideas, a novel that's capacious and can talk about everything: philosophy, psychology, science, politics, economics, law, love, hate, the whole thing. The capacious 19th century novel, and where characters can speak at length without irony about their ideas, where they're really sincere. This is why having a bunch of Russians on your spaceship is also the way to go. But I would say Arcady, I've already compared another character in another novel to a kind of stealth, treated him as a kind of stealth Thomas Jefferson. Arcady's a red-haired utopian idealist revolutionary who's really interested in architecture. You work it out. No, except he's Russian and would be horrified by slavery. One of the things this is one of the great climate change novels. This novel takes, and the trilogy it comes from, takes climate change extremely seriously. On the one level, it turns it around. Our characters are attempting to change a climate, to make their world livable rather than prevent the climate from changing, right? Sachs is trying to cause global warming as fast as he can. And he has his great scientific problem is like, I need more greenhouse gases, but less carbon dioxide. Boy, that's a stumper. Um, but it takes for granted that back on Earth, the world is warming and thus putting strain on society and economy, that there is catastrophic climate change happening back on Earth. That is one of the things that this novel takes for granted. It thinks seriously about the human relationship to nature. And it's not simply an environmental novel. It takes seriously very different positions about environmentalism. There are people in this novel who simply want to use Mars as a mining outpost to stay in human-constructed artificial environments and mine for gold and send it back to get rich on Earth, which this novel implies is a limited and stupid way to proceed. Not for nothing, that would normally be the plot or the goal of a lot of other Martian explorations. We're mining for gold or platinum or unobtainium or dilithium, and we're sending it back and we're living in our habit trail. That Phyllis has no more imagination about Mars and simply to use it as a gold mine, a literal gold mine, is meant as an indictment. The Arabs that Frank travels with are also mining for gold, but they are given more affection and understanding as people who are mining for gold in order to support their wandering Bedouin lifestyle, that the journey is the process, and that they're traveling along the surface of Mars, loving it as a desert. The rest of the characters are divided between those who love the environment but want to make it human specific, who view the world as something in which to live and for humans to use and to live in harmony with. And that is one model. Environmentalism as humans living in harmony with nature. Then there's the harder core position, represented by Anne Claiborne, which says respect nature as it is. Leave it alone. Don't change it. Look at that gorgeous mountain. It's forbidding. It's bleak. We can't live there. We can't farm it. Never turn it into a ski resort. Don't turn it into a national park. Don't hike all over it. Don't climb up Everest and leave your discarded hiking equipment and oxygen bottles up there. Let it be. These are very different ideas. These are fundamentally incompatible ideas that are in tension within American environmentalism in the late 20th and early 21st century. The emphasis on how to live with the land, with the environment, turns out, according to Robinson, to affect everything. How you interact with the environment interacts how you interact with other human beings, your economics, your society, your politics. This novel argues these are all intertwined, that you cannot separate them, and that they shouldn't be separable in the first place, that the only way to really be separate from the land is to be sucking the air hose all day long inside a windowless constructed dormitory. Doesn't sound like fun at all.